Welcome back to Learn Electrics. In today's video we will look at ZS and the 80% rule. As an assessor and instructor, I was often asked what this meant to the testing of installations and how to work out the 80% figures yourself. In this video we will start at the beginning of the process and build up the picture in stages to make it easy to understand and use. There are three values that we use in a set sequence. The calculations on them are very easy to follow. The first value we will find is what I call the raw value, where it all begins. The second value is the tabulated value, or ZS, a very easy calculation. And finally, step 3 is to find the measured value, or ZSM as we call it. There are three sources or places to look for the information. We will find this in the wiring regulations book and in the on-site guide. Throughout this video I will be referring to the 18th edition of both books. In the wiring regulations book we will find the raw values and the tabulated values ZS, whilst in the on-site guide we will find the measured values ZSM. Let's begin with a quick review of what we understand ZS to be. Imagine a normal healthy circuit. We plug the kettle in to make a coffee. What is happening to the current? It is flowing along the phase wire. It goes through the kettle where it loses its energy in the form of heat to boil the water and then returns to the supply transformer along the neutral wire. Passing through the transformer, it is re-energized and repeats its journey through the kettle again. Typically, the kettle will consume 13 amps of current and no current is flowing along the earth path. Oh dear, an earth fault has occurred. Something has gone wrong. Now lots of current flows down the earth cable, the cable that we call R2. This will be a massive current in the order of 600 amps or more. We have labelled the conductors here, R1 for the phase wire, R2 for the earth or CPC, and the outside part of the system ZE. Together, ZE plus R1 plus R2 make up the whole thing called ZS. The massive current will flow outside the building to the supply transformer and back to the consumer unit through the ZE part. The current will then flow back into the property along the phase wire designated R1. The current must flow back into the property. It does not stop at the earth point of the transformer, it carries on. By flowing along R1, it passes through the fuse or breaker, and this is what causes the fuse to blow. If the fault current does not complete the circuit R2, ZE, R1, then it will never blow the fuse. When the fuse blows, the current drops to zero and the circuit is made safe. By having a low ZS, in other words all that path R2, ZE and R1, we can have confidence that the fuse or breaker will trip in accordance with industry requirements. But how low must it be? Well, we will find out. We can begin with raw values. What are they and where are they found? If you have the wiring regulations book, turn to page 370. And we are going to use a 10 amp circuit breaker for our explanation in this video. There are pages for all types of fuses and breakers. We are not interested in the fancy graph, we just need the little chart on the right hand side of the page. Looking down the chart we can find the row for 10 amp breakers marked here in blue, and this tells us that a 10 amp type B breaker needs 50 amps of fault current to flow in order for it to trip within the time required by the industry standards for safety. Now that we have 50 amps, we can do something with this. Using Ohms Law, we know that the nominal voltage divided by the amps will give us the resistance or impedance. So 230 volts divided by 50 amps equals 4.6 ohms. This 4.6 ohms is our raw value for working out ZS. Now we have a number we can move on to calculating tabulated values. Staying with the wiring regulations book, on page 362 we find an important entry. It tells us that ZS is found by the formula U0 multiplied by C min and divided by IA. This is basic Ohm's law, and look how we've broken it down on the right. ZS equals the voltage divided by the fault current, and then we multiply the answer by this thing called C min, and C min is shown below as 0.95. It is used because we may have voltage fluctuations in the electrical supply. We've just done the voltage divided by fault current 2 slides ago, and we got the answer of 4.6 ohms. Now we multiply 4.6 ohms by 0.95 to get a smaller number, 4.37 ohms. Look at page 62 now. This is table 41.3, and we are showing the section on type B breakers. Highlighted in blue we have our 10 amp breaker, and below it the impedance value of 4.37 ohms, and all the other breakers have their own impedance values. This 4.37 ohms is ZS for the 10 amp breaker, and it includes the 0.95 adjustment. In normal circumstances we would not use the raw values, we would just go straight to this page 62, to find ZS in this table. But it's good to know where it comes from. So what have we done to get from raw values to tabulated values? We found the raw value back on page 370. 230 volts divided by 50 amps gave us 4.6 ohms. Then we applied the C min factor by multiplying 4.6 by 0.95, and this gave us the tabulated value ZS of 4.37 ohms. On adjacent pages you will find ZS values for fuses, all with the C min factor of 0.95 applied. The wiring regulations book gives tabulated values. They are shown in these tables. Now we can move on to measured values. In other words, what are we going to measure with our test meters on site? The tabulated values have all been set by the boffins at a standard temperature of 20 degrees. But in real life, on site, in customers' houses, we have no control over the ambient temperature of the surroundings. Think of a conservatory on the back of the house. In summer it might be 40 degrees in there, and in winter minus 10 degrees. Some customers will have the central heating turned up to high, maybe in the high 20s and beyond, whatever their preference is. And then you may have to install cables in a boiler room in a factory or school where it is constantly hot, and the next day you may be installing cables in a butcher's cold room or freezer. So how do we cope with these changes? On page 363 we will see an expression for this thing called ZSM. This is called ZS measured, and it is the number to use when on site and testing with your meter. And you can see that we take the ZS figure from before and multiply it by 0.8 to get an even smaller number, the so-called 80% rule. But why? This so-called 80% rule tells us to multiply all tabulated values by 0.8 to find the maximum permitted measured value. This permitted measured value is the ohms reading that we use on site. The actual value measured with our test meter should not exceed the maximum permitted measured value. Remember, the tabulated value times 0.8 equals the measured value. Why do we need this? Put very simply, as temperature increases, resistance in the copper of the circuit also increases. The tabulated value of ZS is defined at 20 degrees centigrade, but we must make allowance for temperature changes all the way up to 70 degrees centigrade. To not exceed the tabulated value at 70 centigrade, we make the 20 centigrade value even smaller by applying the 80% rule, in other words multiplying by 0.8. On the very simple chart on the right, you can see by the red line that as the temperature increases, the ZS also increases. And we want the measured value to be below the maximum even at 70 degrees. If we apply the 80% rule to our 10 amp breaker, what happens? 4.37 ohms multiplied by 0.8 will give us 3.5 ohms impedance. This is ZSM, ZS measured. When making measurements on site, we compare our test meter readings to this new figure of 3.5 ohms. 3.5 ohms is the maximum permitted measured value for this particular breaker. If the test meter shows over 3.5 ohms, then that is a fail. If the reading was equal to or below 3.5 ohms, that is a pass. If we go over all that again, what do we have? For our 10 amp breaker, we found the raw value of 4.6 ohms. Then we multiply by Cmin to get 4.37 ohms, our ZS value. Then we apply the 80% rule to get our maximum measured value of 3.5 ohms, which we call ZSM. Measured values are shown in the on-site guide, so you don't even have to work these out on site. They will be found in Appendix B and cover many breakers and fuses. The tables on these pages all have the 80% figure calculated for you. ZSM is already worked out. Here is a sample page from the on-site guide, page 131. This shows our 10 amp Type B breaker and the ZSM figure of 3.5 ohms. This little chart shows a small sample of breakers and how the numbers change as the breaker amps rating changes. The first column shows some popular breaker sizes used for installations. The next column shows the minimum fault current that must flow for each size in order to meet industry recommendations. And next to that is the ohms value that will allow that amount of current to flow, the raw value. Then we show ZS, the data that you will find on page 62 of the wiring regulations book after Cmin of 0.95 has been applied. You'll see the numbers are smaller. And the last column shows ZSM, the maximum measured values to use on site found in Appendix B of the on-site guide, and the numbers are smaller still. So, to answer our question from the beginning of the video, what is the 80% rule? How do we find it? First, find the minimum fault current needed for the fuse or breaker to operate for safety. Then apply Ohm's law to find the ohms value. Multiply this number by 0.95 to find the tabulated value, or ZS. Now multiply by 0.8 or 80% to find ZSM. And that's it. Now, on site, we use the measured value, ZSM, to compare against our actual meter readings. If the actual test measurement is above ZSM, this is a fail. There's a problem somewhere. If your actual measurement is equal to or below the ZSM figure, then this is a pass. Hopefully, you can now see how we can get from the books to the on-site measurements. If you don't have the on-site guide with you, take the ZS figures from the wiring regulations tables, multiply by 0.8 to allow for temperature rises on site, and we have ZSM. Happy days and good luck. Well, there we are. We hope that you found this video from Learn Electrics both useful and enjoyable, and that you have added some more knowledge to your mental toolbox. By clicking on subscribe below, you will have access to all of our Tech Tips videos, and you will also ensure that you don't miss our next video. Clicking on subscribe also helps us too, and we do appreciate that small act. It does make us feel that our efforts are worthwhile. Typing in Learn Electrics, all one word, into the YouTube search bar will also give you access to all the videos. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again very soon.